We'll move on to our final round of main speeches, beginning with James Appiah. James is a first-year student reading Human, Social and Political Sciences at Pembroke College. James won the slot through open audition. James, the floor is yours.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Cambridge Union for giving me the chance to speak today. It is an honour to speak in the chamber where so many greats have spoken before me and will do so after me. Upon reviewing this motion, I questioned whether I should have an opinion, take a stand, yet alone make a speech. The sensitivity of this topic is amongst society's most contentious, most fought over, and an issue of a long history. As a black man, there are probably already preconceived notions and biases towards me all around this room and for those watching online. Whatever argument I may make, I will face some sort of slander. So anyway, here goes. On the topic of race, I don't really adhere to it as a debate. The topic of race should be a continuous civil discourse, but even more than that, it should be a civic engagement. One which is solemnly and one which respects each individual irrespective of their race or background. My speech will propose that this House should stop talking and start listening. However, this motion is so vague and fixated on speech that I would like to explore the dynamics of race in its history, present, and future simultaneously. I may at times be quite contradictory, but I hope my message of racial harmony is received. Race in its history, bloody, internecine, oppressive, and a battle for freedom and power. You've heard it all before: slavery, colonialism, segregation, and racism. I'm not here to bombard you with the facts, but rather to set the scene of a journey of which is progressive. Racial harmony seems like a utopia because of the inherent tribal and grouping culture. And as Martin Luther King once said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. The only problem is this: love for me may be different to what love is for you. And this is the perpetual problem that we face. For some, black supremacy is racial harmony, and for others, white supremacy is racial harmony. For others, racial segregation is racial solidarity. In our history, some thought that productivity and progress came from slavery. Everyone should have the right to freedom of speech, and this House was built upon it, this House stands by it, and this House lives by it. To stop speaking will be against the values and traditions of this House. However, this House and institutions across the world need to come together on a racial divide and come together to speak. And for that, a whole host of listening needs to be done. Therefore, there needs to be periods of where talking is not taking place. Engagement needs to intensify, and this needs to happen on both sides. It took years of racial engagement and listening by institutions before Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 was passed. It took white and black engagement before the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. This was prolonged like any other positive racial legislation because institutions like the Senate didn't want to stop talking, filibustering, and complaining. It took decades of engagement from white allies to pass the Equality Acts in the UK in 2010 after being officially announced in 1965. However, many flaws in which white allies had to fight along with black allies in order to resolve. It took Parliament as an establishment years of listening for there to be effective change. As I'm in proposition of this motion, I must mention it is not a command or an enforcement from the people, but rather is a racial awareness tactic which works and has evidently worked over the years. It is challenging and a bit of an egoistical knock for institutions to stay a little quiet for a little while. But like JFK said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And even goes beyond being hard. It reaches the place of wanting true racial change and harmony, which is for some indescribable. Let's fast forward to the present. After the slavery, after the colonialism, after the neocolonialism, after the segregation, after the racism, we are presented with a whole host of contentious issues. The race card, racial profiling, positive discrimination, white privilege, intersectionality, and even racism till today, and many, many more issues. For any of these social, racial dilemmas to be solved, the House needs to first listen. And I must reiterate, we're not enforcing the House to stop talking, but rather we're advising it. This House, along with many institutions established on racial oppression, among other things, need to stop talking and start listening, start engaging, and start taking the appropriate legislative and social action needed to try and resolve these social, racial dilemmas. There's a question often raised of who should be doing the speaking and who should be doing the listening. This is imperative in this debate, but it's not the solution to centuries of racial oppression and dispute. Both parties should stop talking and start listening. when the time comes to do so. And it goes further than black and white. It includes Asians, Latinos, and all sorts of sub-races. Why are we not listening to black people cry to end racial profiling and end police brutality? Why are we not listening to white people's cry of being easily profiled as racist or as privileged? Why are we not listening to Latinos and Asians, who some of whom are left out of the racial discussions? We need to stop complaining and start explaining. If you feel helpless to do so, change will never happen. Mutual conversations are a sort of catalyst for racial harmony, but legislation and raising racial awareness that provides the social and political change we need is imperative. The academic change is progressing. Here at Cambridge, there have been a record number of 137 black students from the UK admitted this year, the highest figure ever for the university, and up 46 students from last year, which was also a record. This academic change doesn't mean the social shift is happening, so the House needs to listen. Why do some black students feel alienated, patronized, and socially neglected in various spaces in this institution? Why do some Asian students feel so unaccommodated? Why do some white students feel that they're always on edge? It goes beyond being a minority or a majority. It goes beyond class. It's about the fundamentals of human nature. Having belonging is a fundamental part of human nature, and as Thomas Hobbes would agree, to seek peace is also a fundamental part of human nature. To achieve our peace and to live in harmony, we need to be listening to each other and every single party. However, some more than others, and this is up to the social and racial equilibrium to decide. Race in the future. I must admit, I'm optimistic and hopeful. Perfection will never be the case when it comes to race, but Martin Luther King knew this, but he still had a dream. I don't have a dream, but I know. I know a time will come where institutions will be racially aware rather than just performative. I know a time will come where the person of color understands the person not of color. I know a time will come where people truly understand the racial mechanisms and dynamics of our history, present, and future. Where we don't deny or lack our racial unawareness, but rather we accept that and listen to ways that we can change them. This racial paradise is for generations to come, but for now, this house and other establishments should stop talking and listen, as well as give international attention to the cry of many other places across the globe. Maybe the international action can be taken well without any neocolonial elements. Please end SARS and please end police brutality. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, James.